time to prepare, so I am a little bit nervous, otherwise I would have prepared something for you all, but like, again, Katie had to drop out, so I thought, this is about...
Well done.
So, thank you. I'm going to begin with a very simple ballad that I wrote from local history. I think everyone will enjoy it. I have actually lost the last paragraph. What do we mean? Verse of it?
Stanza.
Yeah, I've lost the last one, but
It's okay. It's
going
going to be awesome.
Okay.
We can manage.
Okay.
You're
so,
awesome. You can do this.
Okay, so who put Bella in the witch elm? Who or what was she? Who put Bella in the witch elm? Alone inside a tree. A wedding ring still on her finger, torn skirt in her throat. Long does the mystery linger, as does the person who wrote. Who put Bella in the witch elm? Who or what was she? Who put Bella in the witch elm, alone inside a tree? Did she used to stand on the old Hagley Road? Was she a Nazi spy? All we really know was that our young Bella, it was her fate to die. Who put Bella in the witch elm? Who or what was she? Who put Bella in the witch elm, alone inside a tree? I know the lost stanza is something to do with her looks, but I can't really recall.
No, it was perfect. That was a beautiful. That was a beautiful poem. I love that poem.
Thank you guys. Thank you. And the other thing I'm going to read for you is a rather simple but kind of it's something I'm very proud of short story.
Woo! Let's do it.
I've got a fun thing.
Take your time. Take a breath. It's hard being up. It's hard being up there.
It is, isn't it? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Welcome to my world.
So yeah, I am doing a degree in literature and I am enjoying it a lot. There's lots of things I really enjoy. Most of my work is very simple. It's not complex. It's stuff that I try to find, you know what I mean? Something that resonates throughout without needing to be overly derivative. It stands on its own. It means its own thing. So this is actually something I did for children's literature. I've gone in the style of Ursula Le Guin because obviously I love her. Most obviously.
I do too.
So I will read this very short story called The Library. It's only 3,000 words and I hope you enjoy it. So it begins with a quote. The library is the temple of learning, and learning has liberated more people than all of the wars in history. That is by Carl T. Rowan. So, what was new? Once there were sprawling cities, shiny, whole and sleek. Lions all at angles. There was sophisticated communication, people and knowledge travelling at the speed of sound. There were seas with unexplored depths, creatures alien and unimaginable, forests untamed with vines covering ruins long forgotten. There were cultures, morals and philosophy, varied and beautiful as so many birds. There was space and freedom and time. Above all, there was so much potential. But there was war. It came as it always does. A slow creeping, building nationalism. An explosion where all the pent-up rage of nations burst forth. Sorry. It came as it always does. Oh, sorry. Then came climate devastation. Millions died of want of food. Masses more of lack of water. Plague upon plague. Countless, needless, futile lives annihilated in desperation. The waters rose, angry and thrashing the land. The heat unbearable, the topsoil eroded. The sun stripped the world bare. No more room to spread. Finally there was silence. Silence, but for the winds screaming across the wastes. So what was left? Many years later, eons, as with the first mammals in the beginning of the world, civilization crept back to the the surface and established itself. There was, of course, people, there are always people, hardy and resourceful, outlasting the bombs, oblivion, starvation. People clung to each other out of love and necessity, enduring the hardships and the pooling of resources that remained. In these pockets of survival and hope across the globe, each became its own, learning and growing, separate from all the others, passing down stories of when things like phones and cars and emails existed. These things were like so many myths, the language fracturing and reorganising itself, as does all things. It was not like the beginning, but it was a beginning. Long gone was the coal and oil near the surface. The earth was not bountiful as she used to be, but life did adapt and thrive as always. It will find a way. He too was hardy, his gaunt shoulders hunched over his narrow rib cage, scrabbling within the dust for precious artefacts, perhaps even metallic, useful things. The valley was long, wide and dry. It was lost, it had lost its name long ago. Those stories that told them there used to be a river there. Sorry.
No, you're doing amazing.
And many houses had lined its banks, but there were no buildings now, and over the road on the far side of the northerly hill, a small series of springs had resprung, and around it shacks began to sprout between resilient shrubs that served as both sustenance for the populace and protection from the scorching winds. In fact, over the years, settlements began to emerge, dotted amongst these hills, the rise of the earth sheltering its inhabitants somewhat from the elements. A wary alliance between these villages was prudent, for the use of space and access to the only fresh water for many miles around ensured that life was no harder than it needed to be if everyone worked together. Amongst the hazy foliage, humans made their living, foraging and scavenging, discarding what was of no use. It was on no day of consequence, if any days indeed have consequence, that while he dug into the dehydrated earth, that a handful of parched clay began a crumbling shower of sand and soil, revealing a vertical depression in the hillside. After a pause, he delved cautiously, his fingers scratching slightly against the unsuspecting flatness, a hardness that seemed almost purposeful. There was a lip or a rim, coolness, a slight reflective surface of the earth. As he probed further, there was a splintering sound that was once a thud, but also a crack, a breaking sound unlike anything he had heard before. He froze. Blessedly, he froze, for this sound was signalled a great movement, a rush and collapse of earth that had never been seen on that hillside before. And after the dust settled, piled against his legs, the shrubs pouring down the hillside, a jagged hole revealed. And inside to the hill, the edges of this cavern were translucent and sharp. He knew it was unwise, yet he could not help but lean, his body rigid and alert. A short way into the unexpected hole, it was dark. The floor seemed not too far beneath him, yet the expanse of the cave was great. Certainly there were artefacts here, the light glinting off objects in the distance, but of what was impossible to tell. Carefully he stepped forwards, his adept foot on the rim of the hole, straight, perfectly flat lip, edged with the jagged opening he had somehow created. How odd that something could be so even. Bracing his arms either side of the gap, he bent forwards into the hole, gazing about the space, mystified at the obscure shadows before him. Perhaps the water he's left wasn't so far. There was certainly something along the walls. Again, so neat and so tidy. Motes of dust danced before him, obscuring his vision as he peered into the mysterious space, where shards of pale light fell feebly into the gloom. Atrium, a large sign read, though of course he could not understand this. He recognised the symbols as writing, though, marks of an age long gone. Not many people could decipher these icons, and it was useless. And it was mostly the useless and the who could devote their time to this practice, tracing these patterns to prove their knowledge and wisdom of the old world. Yet he was curious, and he shifted his weight from his back front to the fore, and his heel glanced across the sharpness that was the opening. His grip loosened and he fell. It was not so far as he had correctly judged, but again it was flat and smooth. The most startling aspect, however, was the coolness. The floor radiated coldness, sucking the heat from his skin without seemingly being warmed by it. The air too was dense and hard to breathe, so very dry and cold. His lungs, strengthened by a lifetime of hard exercise and endurance, seemed to shrink, its breath assaulting and rending his throat and lungs. The fine, wiry hairs on his body immediately reacted to the sturdy peaks on the nodes of his skin. He had not experienced an acute level of cold before. His extremities felt numb, his brain cloudy. The air, there was something poisonous about the air. He stood there, using the wall for balance, fingers clawing to get back out into the world, ragged, desperate breaths as the air cleared. Warily, bare feet amongst the dust and assaulted debris. Tired, he would not be able to escape this place without some form of aid, some leverage. He spied a mass in the gloom. With a large intake of breath, he carefully approached the mass, a creation of wood and leather, leaving a trail of disturbed dust and blood in his wake. Upon reaching it, he seemed much lighter than he expected. The wood hollow? The sound, as he dragged it back towards the hole, didn't seem organic. He noted the incredible substance, light and strong, and realised that while it was not wood, it was familiar. Often there would be artefacts of this substance, pulled, fractured from the soil, but it was most often useless unless it was recognisable as a bowl or vessel. It could burn, acrid and poisonous, billowing into the air, too impossibly hot to handle, but usually it was mostly discarded. Yet here it was arranged into a large object, large enough to stand on. The surface rotted, its wiry fibres still soft, absorbing the flowing blood of his heel. Sorry, is this too long?
No. Really good. My thing is shaking his leg, those are making like a...
Sorry,
noise.
I'm very anxious.
Sorry. No, this is amazing. Crack on.
He could leave now. He could escape. Perched, braced to ascend from the cavern, he pauses, he looks around. Scattered are so many things unidentifiable. Careful of the toxic air, he definitely finds his way to a shelf, for that's what it was, and selects a random item made of paper. Book, he acknowledges out loud. He carefully opens it. Its time has worn its pages, browning fragments flaking away. He inspects another. It is less damaged by time. Peeling lettering on the cover, shiny, metallic. Carrying his trophy, a relic by which he can claim his discovery, he knows that perhaps there will be someone who can make sense of the symbols transcribed within. At home, he displays his treasure, but there is no one within the settlement that can decipher the writing. Some suggest it is useless, though many are captivated by the pictures, faded line drawings, which occur periodically dispersed in the line and strokes of print. They aren't really decipherable in a way that they can recognise. Perhaps that's a figure, but there seems to be traces of colour that seem bright against the yellow pages. There is one who can read, it is suggested. A woman who was born with twisted limbs and spine. She has dedicated her life to the study of old world markings, and so he sets off across the pallid slope to find this woman of reading. It is the wrong time of day to move in the open cupboard, but his heart feels fluttery in his chest, his hands fidget with his discovery, carefully but insatiably stroking the binding with its shiny foil and its rough edges. He is not alone. The book has generated more interest than he was expecting. The small procession kicks up dust in their wake. In the midst of the harsh, pristine sun, the woman sits, perhaps waiting. She is certainly of no use but for repetitive, repose tasks. Yet she thrives. Is aged more than half a life. A rough canvas shelter covers her, and she sits in an opening. Her withered legs bare and exposed, revealing patches of a white crust she absent-mindedly picks at. Her home is on the outskirts of the settlement, but protected by others, which suggests she is perhaps protected, even though she's considered not so helpful. Eagerly they greet her, and he presents his offering. Is this something you can understand? And so she does. She delicately holds the artifact, first bringing it to her face before relaxing it onto her thigh. She bends, though it is clearly uncomfortable for her. Mumbling for a few moments, her eyes trace the patterns and she finally speaks. Others of her tribe come to witness. Though I cannot read it all, this passage says, and they listened entranced. The language of the book is almost like real words, some of them recognisable to the point of the ear, but in the sounds and syllables they are alien. It starts with the great O, her mouth round and wide as possible before the shape of the words forces her voice into elongated vowels and clipped harsh guttural sounds, almost like she's pretending. She finishes, but where did you find this? It is most important to gather the wisdom of the ages. Tell us. He reaches for his book, and she clasps it greedily to her chest. No, I must have longer to read and understand. He pulls it back from her, and he is held back by one of hers. Tell us. No, it is mine, give it back. You may have it back, but I must pull the meaning from the old language. Angrily and reasonably defiant, he refuses repeatedly, trying to tear back his book. His are with him. Voices rise, but hers are many more, and they cannot last. Defeated, they retreat in rage. A fleck of foil glints on his fingertip. The story actually does carry on, but I'm far too anxious to carry
It's
on.
absolutely brilliant.
Essentially, what happens is these two tribes go to war, and the book that they're actually fighting over is The Art of War, which is obviously a peace manual. I just can't go any further. I'm really anxious.
Well, don't, because you've done things.
Yeah.